We all know that our vowels are A, E, I, O, U. Vowels are produced using airflow that's unhindered, but they're also super tricky because they don't have much difference between them. Vowels are really dependent on super specific placement of the jaw, the tongue, and the muscles in the mouth. So today I'm going to help you with some strategies to help your learning little at home really hear the difference between those vowels and be able to identify them in both reading and spelling. So my first strategy today is just something that you're going to find at the dollar store, and that is a dollar store mirror. And one thing I really like to do when teaching littles vowels, particularly, although we can use this with consonants as well, is to let them really watch your face and let them watch their face in a mirror. Let them feel the muscle placements where your jaw is. That is really going to help them. In fact, research has shown us that being able to see the human face when learning sounds and how to pronunciate them is by far one of the most important things in learning how to pronounce sounds correctly, which makes complete sense, right? It's how babies learn to make their first enunciations. So we really want to focus on this, especially if we have a child that is struggling. Maybe they have some sort of speech delay. A dollar store mirror can also help with that. Also, I want to encourage families and parents, especially if you are learning English as a second language, don't be afraid to over-enunciate or really overemphasize those sounds. I myself learned Spanish as my second language and am fortunate enough to be fluent in Spanish. And one of the things that was super foundational for me to develop my pronunciation was to learn to overemphasize, because remember, our mouth muscles are trained in a certain way. And so when we're learning a language that moves those muscles a little differently, it's going to feel a little strange and it's going to feel different. And so don't be afraid for that to happen. Don't be afraid to overemphasize those movements and to really overemphasize that with your child and enunciate to really show them how it's done. Which leads me into being able to hear the sounds in our words, especially when we're spelling them. So when we have a vowel, every word has to have a vowel. Every syllable has to have a vowel. They are the glue that holds the words together, or the letters together rather. So they are very, very important. But they're also the hardest letters, or the types of letters that are the hardest for our littles to spell correctly because they sound so similar. So there's a couple ways that I personally have addressed this with littles that I'm teaching, including my own two boys. The first one is to do movements that emphasize the way that the mouth moves. So we're really emphasizing the shape of the mouth, but we're doing it through a movement, as well as connecting that sound to the movement, which is giving us just a stronger concrete connection to that sound. So for instance, for the E, we do eh, which helps me remember my chin is dropping down. For the I, we do I, my mouth is kind of up, but it's also giving me that little connection to that dot on top, which helps me remember what the I looks like, all right? So it's a little 2-for-1. With the A, we use ah, which is biting an apple, but it's also emphasizing the way that the cheeks go back just a little bit. And the U, we go because our chin goes down, but there's a slight lift that we don't have with the A. That's the difference between the ah and the And then we have the O. And I tell children this is like the opera singer. Ah. And again, we're getting that visual, but we're also helping our mouth muscles remember the placement to say it correctly. So now let's dive in how we would use this in spelling. Typically, first words for kids, they're going to have those short vowels in the middle. Again, it's the hardest letter for kids to get correct when they're spelling those first words. So what I teach children to do is after writing the first sound, for instance, if I have the word mat, now I'm going to stretch it out. Mat. Ooh, I had a chance to really stretch it out, hear it, use my hand signal to spark that memory connection. I heard it's the ah, and I know that's the sound that goes with the letter A. A, t. At. Mat. Mat. Also, we sometimes, and this is something I personally love to do, but I would actually have the children sing the words because it added an element of fun, but it gave them that chance to really emphasize the sound and the placement of the muscles. And so even when kids would be at their tables or my sons were doing their first spelling and you would hear them, and it's so fun to just watch them use those strategies you've given them and to see them in play. And with that, I encourage you to hit subscribe, the notification bell, share this with anyone you know that has a learning little. And with that, I'll see you next time when I teach your super learning strengths, one child and family at a time.